It's like candy, candy. Oh, 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 oh. I have a lady. I'm gonna start this live and hopefully I can record it. Let's see how this works. Okay, I got to start this live because actually this topic has to be addressed. And so I just want to welcome. Sorry guys, I am playing Jodeci. I mean, we have to get back to the old school, to the basics. And I just like Jodeci. Like it's just something about that song, Forever My Lady. Some people may know about that. But anyway, I'm going to actually go ahead and dive into this live tonight, because I think I'm going to actually jump on my personal channel because this particular channel, Instagram at Dasadoll, is a new platform, and I just want to make people more aware about the company Dasaforme. I am the infamous Dasadoll of Atlanta, and hopefully there will be more Dasadolls in different states, and we can have more in the counties in rural areas of Georgia. So we're just very excited to be introducing this new platform. We're also having our Dasa Gents. So we're not going to forget our fellows because, of course, they too are important. So tonight, this is actually the second introduction to our Sexuality Night Talk. And Basically, today I'm going to be pointing out some very basic information and knowledge about sexuality, and the reason why this topic has come about, or the reason why I myself is even talking about this topic, is because years ago I actually wrote a self-help brand. Well, actually I created a self-help brand, and it is called Children Books for Adults. And it's a brand that just encompasses the fact that we adults need to learn things like we were kids. And we are truly big kids that just have more information, and we're older in age, and some of us are mature mentally. So we're just going to kind of dive in and just talk about some basics to why the topic of sexuality is necessary and important just in general. A little bit about myself. I have been practicing as a supervised psychotherapist for over 10 years with family, children, teens. I used to go inside the schools, and previous the pandemic, go inside the schools and just have one-on-one conversations with teenagers. And this issue, well, is something that I actually identified after I wrote the first self-help book, which I am very excited to share some of the art from that self-help book on our Dasadoll platform. So just look out for a few of the sexuality wellness art pieces on the website, and I just hope you guys enjoy them. And you can find out more about each image and piece that were created and designed by one of our well-trained sexuality artists, and he actually digitally hand drew the art. So it's just like so beautiful, and it just encompasses the beauties and the diversity of sexuality. So let's just get into really like the real deal. So anytime someone hears sexuality, the first thing they think about is, what is the first thing people think about when they hear sexuality? Let's just be real. Sex, why they talking about it, what you mean, give me some more information. It's just so many things that come to mind when someone uses the word sexuality. Questions like, well, when should we talk to kids about this? Or is that considered dating? Like, what is sexuality? Everybody wants to know. So I just love to break the word down in its simplest term. Sexuality. It's just like your personality. Sex has its own ality, right? It may be funny, but it's actually the truth. So what I'm going to do is just kind of talk about three main components of human sexuality. And this is part one, guys. It's going to get deeper, okay? I'm going to actually bring in some special guests over time, trained guests who will be talking about the different aspects of sexuality. We're going to address it in its diversity, meaning we're going to address it in its gender form, its courting and dating form, its single form, its marital form. A lot of people want to get more information about what's going on in our population. Anyway, we have the gays, lesbians, transgender, bisexual population, and a lot of people want to know more about where did these sexualities or sexual identities come from. How does it affect people's lives? How How is it affecting society? How are these things affecting our children? And is it in a bad way or a good way? Is it negative or is it positive? So anyway, those are some of the questions that our, Sexuality Night Talk will basically be discussing. We will be bringing in some good information, and I just hope you guys stick around on Wednesday nights. Right now, we're planning to end the episode on, I think, March the 16th, and that is purposefully, but we'll still show the parts to the night talk, and I hope you guys really get the information that you're looking for. So let's dive into our first component, which is there's 3 components to sexuality, which are we have body image, we have sexuality or sexual functioning, and then we also have reproduction, which is like one of my favorites, but it's coming down the pipeline. We're going to actually get to reproduction and why that is important in our society when we talk about courting, teaching kids about relationships, dating, sustainability, generational families, generational wealth, whatever you want to call it, generational. There is a huge disparity between ethnicity, races in our culture, as far as Black women. Out of all non-Black populations, meaning non-Hispanic and white populations, Black women have the highest rate for unstable marriages in not getting married. So what does that matter? Why does that even matter? Some people may say it's an issue because that means our population is actually decreasing. So we will become a minority. We're already kind of like a minority, but we will, if we do not reproduce and if we do not have children, that means there's going to be a decrease in our numbers. I mean, it's just realistic, right? So let's just talk about, I actually posted something up on my IG that I wanted to actually bring forth right quick. So what I did is I talked about what are some of these sexuality issues. There are some issues that people, I don't know if they're addressing it or if people are actually keeping these things within. A lot of times when it comes down to, and if you guys have any questions, please feel free to, put it in the little chat box here. Instagram is definitely like our little buddies these days because we're able to chat, talk, and things like that. But some of the issues of sexuality actually start, we're going to say usually around your teenage years, okay? Most people don't know that, but sexuality issues usually start around your teenage years. And you may hear a lot of people say, oh, I was born like this or X, Y, and Z. We're going to get to that. Like I said, sexuality is it's a broad topic, and it's a lot of information to cover, but we're going to actually start with the basics, and then we're going to get to the grown and sexy part because we just can't leave that out, okay? But we have to talk about what the issues are. So we have sexual gender issues, we have body image issues, we have sex issues in our marriages, we have issues such as loneliness, because as we know, we're living in a high dating, online dating, whatever dating population where people are looking for whatever it is they're looking for in the dating arena. I mean, it's a multi-billion-dollar arena, And so we know that if people are dating, then they're looking for something, whatever it is, whether it's love, whether it's sex, whether it's attention, whether it's something to fulfill a void, whatever, fun. But that's not the issue. The issue is when people are actually having somatic issues, physical issues, depression, anxiety, distress. Those things are coming about because of something, your personal feelings. And that's what we want. We want people to be honest. What is really going on? Okay. So like I said, we're going to actually bring in some experts to kind of help me out. I can handle this thing now. I can definitely handle this thing. That's why we have parts to our sexuality episodes, because it's so much to cover. So body image, let's stick on that for 1 minute. What is body image? Anybody, anybody want to take a jab, throw something in the chat box? What do you think body image is? It's so simple. It's just as simple as the way a person see themselves and how other people see you. So that can body image can even start with your hair, okay? Just your esteem about how you look in general. It's so many things we can cover, from your toes. We gonna get into the fetishes and all that stuff. But anyway, let me stay focused. So what do you think about your body, your hands, your private parts? Like I said, your hair, your eyes, your hygiene, your oral hygiene, your just your whole physique, your physical makeup. What do you think about that? And I'm asking these questions that I'm asking are questions that can actually be asked to children and teenagers, okay? And sometimes people actually miss, there's some things that we miss in our childhood that catches up with us, okay? And so somebody image issues can be fixed. They can be addressed if it's bothering you, okay? So if you're having body image issues, or if someone told you something, or it could have been something, most times, if it's what others thinks it's something that you heard when you were young, and then you like, man, I remember that when I was in elementary school, they used to call me X, Y, and Z. They used to call me lip, big booty, whatever. I don't know if anybody experienced names when they were when they were in elementary school, but I know I did. But I kind of embraced it. I embraced my I'll be transparent. I actually embraced my name. I was called Lip, but I'm like, okay, well, y'all probably think, okay, why people keep calling me Lip? I'm like, okay. When I looked in the mirror, now that I'm looking in the camera, I'm like, okay, I like my lips, they cute. So everybody have different ways to turn on and turn off experiences in a good way or a negative way. Most of the times we want to turn those things into positivities. Now let's just get to the nitty gritty. What about those things that people feel like they actually cannot change about their body image, their looks? Okay, let me see if anybody said anything. Let me see okay, let me just this is uncut. Okay, so let's just bring out the uncut psychotherapist. Okay, so some things and we're going to start off with the male. We're going to do male and female at the time. Don't get me wrong. I do understand that we do have different genders, and that is totally fine. Okay. And the reason why that is fine is because education proves and shows that some are actually born with biological challenges that affect their reproduction, in their hormones and the chemicals in their brains that actually makes them different as far as their gender orientation and how they feel and see themselves. And that is a known fact. That's why it's important really not to just jump off the edge and start judging people. I think that our society over the years have done a great job with inclusivity of other, gender orientations. And like I said, we can always look at the positive side. I know that there are some negative things that people may have to say, and that is perfectly fine. Everyone have their own opinion to gender and orientation. But anyway, let's start with let me see. We always start with the women, so let's start with the men. Things that men feel that they cannot change about their body image. Okay, so you guys are more than welcome to help me out here, but this is uncut psychotherapy. Okay, so let's start off with, and we're actually going to start off with the chakra systems. So we're going to start off with the root chakra, which is your reproduction system. Okay, so what is going on? What is going on down there, guys? So let's talk about men. We're talking about sizes of your genitals. We're talking about hygienes. We're talking about circumcisions. We're really pulling the scales off some things that really can affect people, and we want to bring awareness to how to address these things. I mean, because it's actually it's serious. So let's just talk about, well, those are things that people feel like 9 times out of 10 they can't change. Like, I can't change the size of my penis, or if we're talking about sex, which is kind of taboo sometimes in our society when we're talking about it, but we're more than happy to look at it and listen to it in the music videos and look at it on TV. But when we actually talk about it and get to the real deal of things, that's when it starts to get a little touchy. And that's why we're having this conversation for our Sexuality Night Talk. So how do you deal with insecurities? Sexuality insecurity. So we're talking about reproduction. There's a lot of things that actually people can do. Number one, we want to just jot down number one, being honest. What is going on? Number two, okay, men and doctors. I get it. I know men don't like to go to the doctors, but we're going to talk about this circumcision. Okay, so there are men, adult men, teenagers, boys, kids, you can still get uncircumcised, okay? And it's just a preference. It's not something you have to do, but if it's something that's bothering you, you can do it. Women do things all the time. And you guys see it every day with women. We'll go get teeth whitening, we'll go get some breast reductions, we'll go get some what they call those things, I'm still learning terms, the booty injections. Women do things to make them feel good, and there's no judgment. I just always say make sure you do your research, and make sure you research your doctors. Make sure you talk to a professional when you're talking about your health and your reproduction. That is very important. Okay. So anyway, that can be dealt with for people that don't know. And is that necessary? Is uncircumcision? And we're gonna come out the box a little bit, because we do know that some people in their religion do not practice that. That's perfectly fine, but then that's where the whole hygiene piece needs to come into hand, and that actually needs to be talked about. How do you take care of your body if you are experiencing that kind of thing with your body? Okay, So we address, okay, so now we're getting to penis size, okay? Let's not excuse the fact that men are born into the world. I think so. This is why we're actually talking about the basics today. When your child, your son, because we're sticking to the males right now, when your son matures, and this is for, we prefer men to talk to boys about once they get to the age of talking about good touch, bad touch, the birds and the bees, and everybody say, well, what age? We start at 3, okay? We start at 3 years old, just at least telling what your gender parts are for male, girls and boys, okay? So as adults, we are aware of what's going on with our reproduction, with our organs. And everybody, like I said, everyone has something different going on. So that's why we're just starting down there with your reproduction at your root chakra, just talking about what's going on down there, how to address those things. And as far as like size, usually those conversations start to happen at your adolescent years, okay? I have been a therapist, like I said, for over 10 years, and I actually had to have those conversations with boys, teenage boys, with the consent, of course, of their parents and things of that nature. When it comes down to, you know, should they be masturbating, should they not, and all those kind of conversations. So we prefer those kind of conversations to happen within the family, within the family, in a safe environment with a trusted person, okay? Preferably a parent, a male to male. And just talk about body image. That's just very important. Just talking about body image to males and what that means, and sex education. They actually took sex education out of schools, which that's another topic, but we're not going to get into that tonight because we have to jump on these women real quick when we talk about reproduction. So like I said, there's 90% of the time there are things you can do to address your body image issues if you have them, okay? So like I said, tonight we're not going to be able to reach all of the chakras when we talk about sexuality, and then 2, we have special guests that we're going to bring in, and they're going to talk about a lot of different things. Pleasure. They're going to talk about diet and why that matters with your sexuality, your sensual behavior, your sexual activity. All of those things are important. And then how they relate to your life in society as a whole. Your relationships, your non-relationships, your marriage. Those things are very important as well. And we're going to get to that on part 2. So let's get to the women. And if there are any questions, raise your hand. I'm just joking. I can't see you, but just, you know, let me look on here. I don't see any. I don't see any questions, which is good. So let's dive into our women. Okay. So like I said, we're on reproduction. Let's talk about some issues, and these are just general issues that may come about. And like I said, when kids are born, they can be born with reproduction organ differences, okay, deficiencies. And that's where the doctors come in and actually educate the parents and so forth. So those issues will have to be addressed with the help of a clinical team and parents. And like I said, that's a whole nother story, but we're just gonna stick to the basics, okay? So reproduction for women, always hygiene. We're talking about kids, kid girls, teenage girls, young women, mid-aged women, and older women, mature women. Excuse that, because we learn a lot from older women, honey. A whole lot. And I'm very thankful for that. So myself, I'm a mid-age. Well, am I even mid-age yet? We're not gonna go there yet, but anyway. So reproduction issues that could come about, hygiene, like I said, chemical or hormonal imbalances, pH, we already know that. Body shape. Okay, we're getting somewhere now. Body shape, we're actually getting into, because women and men are shaped differently underneath the torso. So just how you feel about that whole, everything that's going on in that area, as well as far as size, does count. I mean, and it can actually get more, okay, uncut therapists come to life. So women actually get their vaginas, and we're actually going to use the clinical terms, their vaginas operated on. They may feel like their clitoris is like different, or whatever they feel about how their vaginas look. And it's perfectly fine, guys, to look at your organs. It's yours. They are yours. What is the problem? That is completely fine. When you go to the doctors, they're looking and checking and things like that. So you are your own doctor. So that's why we're actually having this conversation, because we are our first doctors. We are the first ones that actually identify what our issues are when it comes down to our sexuality, how we see ourselves. No one can determine how we see ourselves better than we can. Okay. And last but not least, I said how others see you. It's fine to ask others that you trust, well, what you think about this, or I feel this way. Hey, it's a community. Build trusted relationships and ask questions, and that will save a lot of time and stress, distress, depression, insecurities. We can move past those things quickly if we go ahead and be honest and address them. Okay? So anyway, tonight we just kind of dived in and talked about the basics to sexuality. Body image was one, and let me see. Let's go into sexual functioning, and then I think we're gonna stop with part one tonight. Okay, so sexual functioning, what that means, where that comes from, why is it important? I don't know how many people think that sex is it important? Is it not important? Is it an important conversation to discuss, or is it not? Okay, 9 times out of 10 we're gonna say it's important. Okay, everybody, most times when we talk about sexual or sex functioning, we're thinking in the mature years, like mature age. Let's bring it back. Let's bring it back now. Let's start off with the men. Let's start off with the men now. When men get stressed, it doesn't matter what age they are. They can be in their 20s. They can experience ED, erectile dysfunctioning. They can experience that at a young age because of depression. So going back to body images, maybe what could be depressing a man in a young adult male in his 20s up to his 30s. It can be finances, it can be relationships, it can be family issues, it can be a plethora of things that could be affecting his sexual functioning. It can be spirituality, it can be anything. It can be just pressures of society or the world. A lot of things can affect your sexual functioning. And when we're talking about sex, it doesn't always have to be like intimate. Uncut therapists come to life. So it doesn't always have to be talking about effing or and we're trying to be I'm a little uncut, but then I still have to keep it cool because my topics are actually for children too, so I have to keep that in mind. But we just want to be real, because that's where the disconnect happens, when people are not being honest about what's truly going on. So those are some of the things that could be going on with men in their younger years. Actually, starting life too fast could also be a stressor. Starting a family too fast, doing anything too fast, impulsively, and compulsions, like all of those things can just cause a person to have extreme anxiety. Okay, and so if you're anxious and then you become distressed, you're not, 9 times out of 10, you're not really thinking about anything sexual. But then what happens is, then your sexuality becomes neglected. Your sense of your reproduction, your healthy the healthy functioning of your reproduction is then blocked. So that whole chakra light and the energy down there is just in distress. So that's why we're having these conversations, so that we can make sure we share it with our kids, we share it with anybody we know that could be experiencing some of this stuff, and just get it on out there. So the key is talking and bringing awareness. Okay. So let's get to the women. Challenges that could be affecting and you see we skip teenagers, right? Because technically that's a whole different ball game when you start to have sex in your adolescent years, how that affects your sexuality in your young adult years. Yes, it does. Okay. Some of us are still working through our sexual traumas, and let's just be real, or our sexual challenges that we experienced in our adolescent years before young adult hood. And most of the times that's where a lot of sexual trauma happens as kids and in your teenage years. So those things have to be worked through. And in the clinical arena, we call it making sure a teenager or a child gets a psychosexual assessment. You can look it up online. We have Google nowadays. You can just do your own psychosexual assessment, or just, of course, you can come to Dasaforme and get one. But it's just good just to do a check-in if you notice that you have some challenges there, issues there that you would like to address. So there is something clinical that actually addresses psychosexual behaviors, traumas, or concerns. Okay, so for women, same thing as men. What could be causing, and it's so pertinent. It's so pertinent for women too. We're not just shining the light on one gender here, because on this platform is shining the lights on all genders. Okay, because everyone deserves to have they have the right to talk about what they are experiencing. Okay, so for women, like I said, challenges in their young adult years could be anything. It could be insecurities, it can be job, it can be financial, it can be family, it can be any kind of disability. I actually myself grew up with a mother that was disabled. I'm just thankful that she in some form or fashion had a very high self-esteem, so I'm just very thankful for that. But I am aware that there are others that have some struggles and challenges, and so that's why I'm just very excited to be able to talk about these our sexuality challenges, issues, and resolutions. Okay, so we always want to have solutions. We don't want to just talk about things and not have solutions and answers, so that people can have a better quality of life. That's what this Night Talk show is all about. Fun, excitement, and having a better quality of life. So we all want to, we're working for balance in that area of sexuality. And like I said, we want to bring on our other masterminds, and I'm very excited to I hope that they'll be able to join our platform. I'm pretty sure. And so anyway, those things, as far as challenges for women, it's the same thing for men. So one question may be, well, what is a good age to actually start to actually embark on our sexuality? Okay. I don't know if you guys ever heard of Dr. Frances Welsing. She's one of my favorite people. For our culture, or I'm going to say African Americans, her age is 25, because technically that's when our brain actually stops to develop. Okay, age 25. So for all those, I talk to everybody, teenagers, young adults, all y'all that think that you know everything about your sexuality. Your brain is still developing. If you're not 25, and we're going to actually say 26, because you want to give yourself that whole year of 25 to process exactly what's going on with you. She even says it's better in this society for us to think about marriage around 30 and 35. Particularly, honestly, she said 30. So I'm not just gonna even sugarcoat it. It was just sad when she said 35. I was like, God, what in the world? Because it's so cute and so beautiful when we see our marriages and our fairy tale. And don't get me wrong, because I want a fairy tale marriage too. Okay, so everybody have their own preference. Some people like to be alone. Some people don't like to be alone. Some people want to get married. And we're going to actually talk about marriage, which is so exciting. That is actually why I became a therapist, because I was just interested in the whole, this is finna get juicy. I was interested in the whole idea of marriage. And my thing is, I wanted married people to just like have all the resources, just enjoy that thing. Okay. I just couldn't wait to when I was a teenager, like a young adult. It started when I was a young adult, around 20, I'll say probably 18 through 23. That was my stage of, oh my God, like just so excited about that whole marriage thing, relationships. When I was in college, people would just come out and talk to me out the blue about their relationships. I never thought about being a therapist. I actually wanted to be a medical doctor, and it doesn't even matter what kind of doctor, because I wanted to be so many doctors. But once I was able to see the lifestyle of doctors, I was like, nah, I'd rather just keep moving forward and figure out what other area I will be helping people in. And this is the best thing I've done in my life, to be a therapist, because it has tremendously impacted my life. I learn from other people all the time. Of course, they're getting psychoeducational information from me, but people have the answers. Everyone have the answers to whatever issue they have. People are jewels, and so that's why it's important to respect them. I know I just said that, and I know people like, well, it's bad people in the world too. Yes, they got issues too, honey. They got sexuality issues too. That's probably why they bad. But anyway, that's another conversation for another talk show. So I hope this evening you guys were able to, if you don't have any questions, we're able to actually enjoy the talk show. And we're going to come back with some more pointers and some more exciting things and conversations to talk about. And I may even have some manipulatives. But before we leave tonight, I just want to leave off with this. Like, please just go back and think about your sexuality in general, how you like to express your sexual behavior, whether it's sensual, sexual, or alone or in a relationship, okay? And I use sensual because, I mean, sometimes people have a little fun in social crowds, and, you know, we like to talk about sex topics and sexualities and all these things. But think about that, and we're gonna actually bring everything in a nutshell and make beautiful flowers out of this whole sexuality night talk at our end part, and I don't know what part that's going to be. Hopefully we have 4 parts to the sexuality night talk, and that won't be the complete end, but because it's so much to cover. Okay, so think about, how do you like to express yourself, or do you not know? Do you have some blockage? Are you worried, concerned, depressed about something about your sexuality? And like I said, if you don't want to put anything up here, you can DM me. We can have a private conversation, or if you would like for me to bring that conversation to our platform, just let me know. But we're actually going to talk about some of those preferences, and it is totally fine. Okay, and so this is the juicy part that I said I was going to save for the end. And it's always going to be a juicy end part to our sexuality night talk, okay? So I know a lot of people want to hear well, let me take that back. I can't just say everybody want to hear something about it, okay? One sexual expression that is not talked about is the dominatrix population. So we're actually going to be talking about that population and that whole the other belongings and people that belong in that that world, and where that comes from, okay, and what that actually looks like in our society, and is it a negative thing? Is it a bad thing? And we're actually going to tie spirituality, religion also into this conversation, because it's something that just has to be addressed when we talk about sexuality. And it's totally your opinion, your belief, because sexuality is actually a part of your belief. Your values and your beliefs are a part of this conversation. But I'm very excited to continue to teach you guys about the chakra energies and how they relate to sexuality, and just continue to bring in some fun conversations and manipulatives. So thank you guys for tuning in with me tonight on our live at Dasadoll, and thank you for listening to the Dasadoll of Atlanta. And I'll be looking for you next Wednesday night at 8:30. Good night.